Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, there's 52 different cards in the deck of cards. I'm not going to show Michael what this card is. I'm going to place it on his chair. And Michael, I'd like you to sit down on the card. Go ahead. Now what Michael is going to do is use his intuition to deduce what card this is. I've got another deck of cards here, and 52 different cards, as you can see. Pull out both of your palms like this. Fantastic. So half the cards are going to go in this palm. Just put your thumb on top so they don't fall. And half the cards go in here. In a moment, I'm going to count to 3. When I count to 3, you're either going to take your right hand or your left hand and throw those cards behind you. Just throw them up in the air. 1, 2, 3. Fantastic. We're halfway there. We've got 26 left if you're keeping count. I'm going to cut these in half and you place half in either hand. And again, I'll count to 3. You do what you want to do. 1, 2, 3. Michael, we're down to the last few cards. Take your finger and touch the back of one of these playing cards. Just touch one. This is yours. Hold out that hand. I'm going to place it right there. Don't move. Take these cards. Toss them. Ladies and gentlemen, let me review these odds. If he gets the right color, it's a 50-50 chance. Okay? Not bad. If he gets the same suit, it's a 1 in 4. If he gets the same value, it's 1 in 13. If he gets the exact same card that he is sitting on right now, that's 52 to 1. Please stand up. I don't want to come anywhere near your card, but I want you to show the camera, show everyone the card that you have deduced. You got the 3 of clubs, ladies and gentlemen. And remember, one card of the 52 was what he was sitting on. Pick it up. Show him. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an exact match. 3 of clubs. I came up with
with Smartass because I wanted to have an impossible looking force that was also dramatic and fun, but had an impossible and unbelievable conclusion. And that's what I came up with Smartass. The idea behind it was, rather than just say, here, pick a card, and then have a revelation, I wanted the procedure to be fun. I wanted the whole thing to be a dramatic process as opposed to something redundant. And the nice thing about the freedom of this is the spectator just, they just toss cards away. I wanted something that could reset, so I'm going from show to show. I was able to reset instantly. I wanted something that could be performed for surrounded, could be performed close up, so there's no angle problems. And I really wanted something that would play on a large stage. And I've really performed this for huge audiences. Most recently for 1,000 people. This is something that can play very large, and it really fits in your pockets. So pack small, plays big, and that's where Smartass came from. Here we are. We've got this is your package, and inside you've got your deck and your jumbo revelation card. Now the deck consists of 26 indifferent cards that have been adhered to 26 force cards. So each card is actually a double card. And when split, the way to do this is I do a pull down, and I just reach over here with my forefinger and separate the cards like this. So your force card, each and every force card is actually adhered to an indifferent card. Now what this consists of is there's a large strip of adhesive. It's a special repositional adhesive that goes from corner to corner in a thick stroke. So basically, when you want to reconstruct the two cards together, put the deck back together, you want to line it up, and then just with your forefinger and thumb on the underside, you want to go like this, and it re-adheres those together. Now what this does is it leaves these two corners free, so no matter what orientation you have with the cards, they're easily separated at that point. The nice thing about the adhesive is when separated, all the adhesive is on the indifferent card, and none of the adhesive residue sticks to the actual force card. So there's no worry in performance that once the spectator is holding that card that they're going to feel anything. You'll find that the adhesive, when the card becomes slightly bent, will just instantly separate. So it's a very, very easy thing to do. You don't need to make a move out of it. You just do it. But I do suggest that you practice that procedure several times, several hundred times actually, just to get it down, to make it smooth. It's just all covered in action, in performance, because you're speaking, you're talking, you're asking the spectator, please hold out your right hand. I want you to take the card that you've selected in your right hand, and then the adhesive card on top. So my cleanup at the end is that I just grab his card back, I take it, obviously this is not done in front of the audience, but I take his card back, I can just go like this, adhere it back together, add it to the other cards, and then toss them into my pocket. Let me tell you the real beauty and the secret to this deck is that it's an industrial strength forcing deck. As you know, these cards have been stuck together with a special adhesive. The cool thing about this is that these cards, for all intents and purposes, when you're in performance, they will not separate. Check this out. The cool thing is, in performance, they never separate. But when you need them to, you just do your pull down move, and then boom, you're ready to go. You forced your card. And that is the beauty of the Smartass deck. Jumbo card, these bicycle jumbo cards are easily placed inside an inside jacket pocket. And this is my setup. I've got this in here, I put the deck in here, and I'm ready to perform. Essentially, I'm just going to go through the bare bones of the actions of the routine. We would have a spectator come up. As soon as they come up, shake their hand, I take the jumbo card and place it on the chair. So this goes on here. Spectator, I get them to sit right down the jumbo card. And in the scripts that you'll find with the DVD on the PDF files, it goes through different, there's intuition, there's, one of the routines is called buyer's remorse, and one is the Princess and the Pea routine, which is it's a princess-oriented routine. So they each play differently and for different purposes. And they all have different frames for the same actions. So what you're going to see right now is exactly the way I do it for every time, just the scripting changes, the pattern changes, my words change, and the concept of the routine changes, but the physical actions will be the same every time, and this is how it goes. The spectator is seated on the jumbo card. I then remove this deck and show very, very, very cleanly that these cards are all different. And I'll say that, Anthony, as you can see, these cards are all completely different playing cards, 52 different playing cards. We're going to get you to randomize to get down to a single playing card, but you're going to eliminate them in a fun and exciting way. All I need you to do is take the cards in your own hands and split the cards roughly in half. Take about half in each hand like this and hold them like this, like you're the scales of justice, weighing the world on your shoulders. Now, the fun part about this is that he's handling the cards completely, very hands-off. And the nice thing about this is there's nothing for you to do except tell him that he can, in a moment, you're going to snap your fingers, or in his own time, he's going to eliminate half the deck. And he does this by tossing the cards away. Now, it's Anthony, you can toss them up in the air, you can toss them over your shoulder, you can throw them behind you, absolutely. Whatever you feel most comfortable with. After they've done that, and I usually step away at that point because it's sort of a funny moment. Now what I do is I say, we're getting down to the nitty gritty. I want you to split these cards in half and take half in either hand. We're down to a half a deck, and now they're going to eliminate a quarter of the deck. So Anthony, once again, using your intuitive abilities, you're going to eliminate the other half. At this moment, I then take these cards back, because now we're down to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 double cards. So visually, you'll see 6. There's actually 12 because they're double cards. As soon as I take the cards back, I say, Anthony, I want you to take your finger, and you're going to touch your final selection. Now, I cut this card to the top, the card that he has his finger on, and now, Anthony, if you could hold your hand out like this. Now what this does, it takes the heat off the cards for a moment. He puts his hand out like this, and that's, when I come back, what I'm doing is I'm pulling down with this forefinger, and then just separating the cards like this, just peeling them apart like this, and then I hand him the force card. What I do is I just angle this like this, the card will peel apart. I just do it very slowly, very cleanly. If you do it quickly, it's going to sound like you're actually separating cards. It's actually going to have a little bit of a peeling sound. If you do it slowly, it's going to go like this, and that's all there is to it. Everything at this point, you're absolutely clean and clear at this point. And I like to instruct them on doing the revelation. This is very important. You want your final moments to be strong. You want them to be, you want to get 2 reactions, one from him and one from the audience. So the way to do that is say, Anthony, I don't want anyone to see that card yet, including yourself. Could you please stand? The card you've been sitting on the entire time, I want you to take it. I want you to hold it close to yourself as well. Don't show anyone yet. The moment will be yours right now. Just take a peek and see how you did. Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a winner. Show them. Boom. Now the final moment is now, my hand on the shoulder. It's a Kodak moment. It's an applause cue. And I will continue, and I will even instruct the spectator, with a stage cue, stay in that position. You're awesome. So that way it prolongs the applause, and at the end of that, I just take these 2 cards back, give him a big handshake. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give Anthony a round of applause as he takes his seat. He was awesome. And at the end of that, I just place this into my pocket, adding it to the cards that are in my pocket, place this in my pocket, and I'm done. Quite often, I will have the spectator shuffle the cards at the beginning of the routine. I make sure that the person is actually standing at the outset because if they're seated, they will be liable to do like a riffle shuffle on their leg while they're seated. But I've never had a problem with the person when they're standing. Occasionally what I'll do is I'll hand them the whole deck and say, why don't you do me a favor, just give these cards a really good mix. So he will do a mix like this. Now if you're a little bit wary of the spectator, you know, your confidence level, shuffle this half. So they shuffle that half, I shuffle this half. Let's switch, and we shuffle them up. And this just, again, because you're demonstrating what you want them to do, they will mimic it. They will mirror your actions. So if you're doing an overhand shuffle, they will do an overhand shuffle. The beautiful part about having a spectator shuffle the cards, obviously, is that, again, it shows the above-board nature of the entire procedure. It's just a deck of cards. You should treat it as such. Your attitude should be, here, shuffle them up, mix them up. An added tip that you can do in performance is after each elimination phase, you can actually show the cards to the spectator. But at the beginning of the routine, I think it's important that you spread the cards out. They see that the cards are different. You can say, Anthony, we've got 52 cards. And now at this point, you can then spread the cards out and show. Anthony, we're down to half the deck. Spread the cards, show. The last phase, I will do a brief display. I want to make a big deal of this. Anthony, we're down to the last handful of cards. Take your finger and touch the back of a card. That's just a nice way to display all the cards in between each phase so they know that they're all different. I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but again, it's a nice touch that you can add to your routine to just build up the fairness of the force. One nice touch and an important subtlety is the fact that in performance you can be quite far away from the spectator. Now I don't suggest that you walk off stage, but you could. You could actually do one of those the lazy magician type thing where you actually sit in the front row of the audience and watch the guy as he does it and just explain him what you want him to do. There's only 2 elimination phases where you're not involved, where he's splitting the cards, tossing them away, splitting the cards, tossing them away. So there's not a lot of time, but if you build up the moment and build up the this whole thing about his using his intuition and feeling it and all that stuff, and you're building up those moments, you can actually be quite far away. What I do is I make sure I'm a few paces away, so it's just visually, it just shows that there's no influence and there's no forcing. There's no, Anthony, it's completely up to you. The decision is yours. And then I take 1 or 2 paces back. I think distance plays a large role in creating the fairness of the procedure. All right, for you people that don't like to get messy, we've got an umbrella. Now this is a great way to do this if you're on a bill where there's several acts performing and you can't leave a message on the stage. If it's an environment where you think leaving cards on the floor is going to be an issue, and if you don't want to clean up at the end of your routine and be on your hands and knees at the end of your performance, this is an answer to that. This is a solution to that problem. An umbrella. Toss it in your briefcase or in your performance case, and just before you do the elimination phase of the routine, pop it open, drop it on the floor, and now Anthony, what I want you to do is separate the cards. Think about it for a moment using your intuitive skills. I want you to just, with your gut reaction, eliminate half the cards. And all I want you to do is just take half those cards and toss them inside the umbrella. Boom. The only issue that I have with having a receptacle of any kind is you're not going to get the dramatic throwing away. But you can. And the way I do this is that I will take the umbrella and place it behind him. Anthony, not only are you going to eliminate these cards, but you got to try to aim for the umbrella. You're just going to eliminate a quarter of those cards, toss them over your shoulder into the umbrella. Good aim. Now, if they miss, it's a funny moment. If they don't miss, you can also build them up. Good shot. You can do it in a sarcastic tone. Good shot, even if they miss. Another way to do this is to actually be there with the umbrella as he does the elimination and try to catch it. So you can be running, be behind this thing, and Anthony, let's try this with the handful of cards you got there. Just toss them up, and I'm going to try to catch them. Go ahead. This just creates a bit more action with the procedure. Makes it fun, can be funny. If you go for comedy, this is definitely a way to do it. And again, with the umbrella, you don't have to be on your hands and knees at the end of the show. You just take your umbrella off stage and collect the cards very easily. Here's another option. Rather than an umbrella, there's also, this is a mesh laundry hamper. And these you can find in travel stores or houseware stores. The cool thing about this is it packs very, very flat, for its size. You can throw it inside a briefcase, but the beautiful thing about this is that it actually expands to quite a large size, like so. It's visual because they can see through the bag, obviously, and as they eliminate, so if you could separate the cards, Anthony, the cool thing about this is that the audience sees the cards being tossed in. So if you toss half the deck in, boom, and what you can do now, you can pick these cards up, and they see the cards through the mesh. It just, again, we're emphasizing the fairness, the fact that all these cards are different, and just building up, the largest of it. And again, at the end of the routine, all the cards are in here. You just grab them up and you toss them back in the case, and you're ready to perform again. So that's, again, this mesh laundry hamper is a great way to keep the stage clean and to be able to move from routine to routine without having any cleanup. Now, what I have done in the past is if I have a larger show and I have the nice accoutrement of having an assistant with me, you can have them pick up the cards. And I've done that where I perform the routine. I have a stagehand come on, quickly collect the cards, and then head off stage. The nice thing about that, obviously, is the fact that somebody else is handling the cards at the end of the routine. You're not, crawling on your hands and knees. But I got to tell you, between using a receptacle for doing the routine, I much prefer doing it in the carefree, tossing the cards, letting them land all over the floor, for the very simple reason that nobody, even magicians, would even imagine that you would take a gaff deck of cards, a forcing deck, and be throwing them around onto the floor. And that's really the deceptive nature of this routine. In addition to your DVD with the performances and explanations, there is the scripts, and if you put your disc, the DVD disc, into a computer, either PC or Mac, you will see a folder that will say scripts. You double click that, there's going to be 4 different scripts. One is entitled The Princess and the Pea, which is for family audiences. The other is called Intuition, which is an adult-themed routine. There's Buyer's Remorse, which again is more of an adult-themed routine. And then Anthony Linden has been kind enough to add his script, which is called Thinking on Your Feet, which is his presentation of Smartass. For the Princess and the Pea routine, which is one of the accompanying scripts, there's a couple props involved. I just wanted to quickly go over them. These 3 items are all dollar store items. Now you may have to hunt around to find them, but when you do, again, I got this as a set for $1, so it's very cost effective. This is a little tiara. This is I guess a princess wand or a scepter. And this is a party popper. And what you do for this is you rotate this and it will pop. Let me show you what that looks like. Now at the end of the routine, when we do the big revelation, I have this in my jacket pocket. And when there's that moment where the princess, the little girl, or the grown woman, I've done it for adults as well, she reveals the 2 cards. I reach in my pocket, I pull this back, I step behind her, pop that off over her head. So it gets this nice sort of, it's almost like a fireworks display or that type of thing. Again, there's going to be the applause cue of you turning over the two, or her turning over the two cards and they're matching. So the audience reacts, they start clapping, and once the applause hits the fulcrum, once it hits the point of starting to die down, I then do the popper. And again, it extends the applause. It gives you more of a boost of energy at the end of the routine, and just a nice way to finish. I then let the spectator, the participant, keep this. I said, keep that in your head, keep this in your hand, because you are a real princess. And that's just a nice little ending note. She sits down and she's able to keep the stuff. For setup, all I do is I keep this inside. It looks quite long, but I can actually keep this inside my jacket pocket, and it's actually resting up here, but it stays in there during the show. This thing, again, make sure that this is actually to go on someone's, into the hair, so you want to make sure that's down so you don't hurt your fingers, obviously. That just goes into my pocket, and when I need to do the routine, I just slip this, when she comes up, I slip this into her hair at this point, and then reach in, take this, and she holds that. And that's the props and the setup for the Princess and the Pea. Pleased to introduce a very good friend of mine, trade show worker, full-time performer, corporate guru, if I can toss out a few non-existent phrases. This is Anthony Linden, Toronto-based performer and a good friend that has been doing Smartass for quite a while now. I discussed it with him a while back. He fell in love with the idea. He started performing it. He's been performing it quite a bit.
Absolutely. And first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity
Fella.
well, actually not to be here, but the fact that you let me do the trick before you released it.
Right.
And if it was up to me, I'd ask you to keep it under wraps. I think it's that powerful. And if you're going to release it, this is the way to do it.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it. And I do know that you fell in love with the routine, and I know that you perform it. Every time I talk to you, you talk about the last time you performed it, and so it's obviously a regular piece that you do. Let's just talk about the routine and what attracted you to the forcing method or whatever. Just tell me what you liked.
Well, I think first of all, good practical working material is few and far between. And you read a lot of things on the internet and a lot of tricks, and then you understand, oh, it's so complicated. I'm going to have to carry an extra suitcase, or it doesn't reset, or I have angle issues. And there's a simplicity, there's an eloquence and a simplicity to the methodology that allows for a very hands-off delivery, which I think only enhances the deceptiveness of the force. It's practical, it's hands-off, and also very important, I think you can, and as the presentation that I like to do it shifts the focus onto the spectator, and they become kind of the star of the show. It's very hard to do that with some of the other force decks and other approaches, because you have to do so much mucking. This is just,
right.
You give the deck to the spectator and put the spotlight on them.
Yeah.
And then at the end you have a wonderful revelation, and the whole focus is on them doing things, as opposed to the performer.
The one script I came up with, Buyer's Remorse, I play up the fact that these are big decisions. So each decision they make is actually built up, not to a frenzy, but to a point where, I want you to make your decision. But remember, 10 years from now, when you're talking about this trick, and you're talking to your grandchildren, or whatever, and I build it up 100 years from now, when when someone's reading your memoirs, I don't want them to read the fact that the magician never gave me a second chance. I don't want you to have any remorse. I want you to make your decision. So it's when you mentioned the linearness of it, that again emphasizes the cleanliness of and obviously the freedom that the spectator has in the complete routine. So I just wanted to mention that. For family audiences, I use The Princess and the Pea, which is a very cute fairy tale-like story with a very powerful ending. Plays well for mixed audiences of adults and kids. The Buyer's Remorse, again, plays very well for an adult audience. It's for me, it's more of a casual performance type thing, because it really emphasizes the whole fairness of the procedure. And then the intuition routine is a very straightforward, borderline, mentalism routine that, again, focusing on the spectator's intuition and their foresight, their gut reaction. If it's a man, I talk about gut reaction. If it's a woman, I talk about woman's intuition. So that's the way I framed it. Anthony, with his thinking on your feet presentation is a very smart and corporate presentation that works well for him. Now your approach is quite different. I know that you've in your script and the way you've explained in your performance what you've explained to me. So let's talk about your handling.
Sure. I'm one of those dull, boring corporate guys, always working for stuffed shirts. So I wanted to kind of change it, and I call it thinking on your feet. And very corporate, very much so talking about how in the business world people have to constantly make quick decisions and analyze information and make decisions and literally think on their feet all day.
Right.
Which is why I've opted to have the person, to have the jumbo revelation card in an envelope, and it's placed on the stage and the helper stands on that envelope.
Oh,
so
interesting.
they are literally standing and thinking on their feet, often just on a riser. I'm not on a stage, and
Right.
I was concerned about sight lines, about having somebody
Yeah.
seat, because as we all know, you start getting a decent sized crowd without a well-lit stage and a lower stage or a riser, you're out of field of vision.
Yeah. Rather than having them sit on the card, you actually have them stand on it, and you have the card inside an envelope so that it's
Kind of just protected from the wear and tear of their feet.
yeah,
and so
absolutely.
forth.
Yeah, and in terms of the elimination phases, you do the same.
Very similar, perhaps talking about trying to draw business parallels or something about analyzing information. But at the end of the day, they've got to make a decision. And the visual nature of tossing the cards, I, if possible, prefer to do the toss over the shoulder. If there are concerns, I will use a receptacle, a gift bag, or the umbrella. Again, just for practical reasons. But it's I like to keep it very focused, very tight, very snappy. Just get them making those decisions, and that's part of the whole point, is that we have to make decisions quickly. So why drag this out? We have to make these decisions quickly, and then at the end to have them take the card and do the final revelation. Recap at the end, or that moment is, look at the incredible job this person has just done.
Right.
They've done this.
Yeah.
Not me.
Emphasis on that. Yeah, absolutely.
And the corporate audiences, that talks their language.
Totally.
They connect with that.
I think you touched on something interesting that I wanted to talk about briefly. Was that it's spectator versus magician, or magician versus spectator, in the sense that you could be the all-knowing, all-powerful one who's controlling the universe, okay, and you could play the routine as a mind control routine, or as a thought control routine, or as a routine where you're controlling their physical actions, and their decisions are not their own, and all that type of thing. I mean, but you and I both know that for audiences, in the real world, unless you're a Kreskin, unless you're a guy who's maybe a Darren Brown, it's not going to play. If they like you, then it might play, but it's like you said, stronger to play it with them being the catalyst, with them being the...
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it comes back to the character. If you take a look at a Kreskin or Darren Brown, they're consistently presenting demonstrations that reinforce their character.
Right.
Guys like me, we're all over the board, and it's very hard to do a burnt bill routine and then come out 3 seconds later and supposedly have this incredible mental ability. It's an incongruency that the audiences don't. So it's character driven, and I think each performer has to take a look at their show and say, this is a real worker. How do we fit it to our character? How do we fit it into our show?
There's room for a serious mentalism presentation in this.
Well, absolutely. And one of the things, and I know we've talked about this, the first couple of times that I did this, sometimes it's the tail wagging the dog, and as magicians we get just seduced by a method.
Right.
And that's what got me first with this. I think the effect is so linear. It's just so straight and narrow and bang that it almost, if you don't temper it a bit, it's not one of those, whoa, it's just kind of one of those, wait a minute.
Right.
And it was trying to figure out, well, is it a timing issue with the revelation? Is there a way to perhaps soften it and get an extra beat of comedy? And for example, I played around with the gag 52 on 1 card.
Okay. Tell us about that.
Well, I think again, it's just
an extra beat, I guess.
It's that extra beat, but if you think about it, it is so clean. It's so hands-off.
Yeah.
I hate the too perfect theory, and it's not too perfect.
Right.
It's compelling, and the fact that this person just makes these decisions, and it's so out of your control.
Yeah.
I think it's trying to release a little bit of tension.
Okay.
It's it's just that steam engine building steam so quickly
Right.
that if you just release the valve and just let a little bit off,
Right.
you've framed it.
Right, so you go with a blow off, like a comedy blow off,
Yeah.
and for those who are not familiar, the 52-in-1 that we're talking about it's a jumbo card, and you can get them the same size as your bicycle card, with 52 cards printed on the face of the card. So the gag is that at the end of the routine, maybe you have an envelope with both cards in there, your jumbo revelation as well as the 52-in-1. You would pull out the 52-in-1 as a gag finish and say, and look, your card's right here. It's aisle 3, 6 to the left or whatever. And then you put that one away and then say, oh wait, Anthony, there's one more. And then you pull out, the final revelation. You were right on. And it says a 2 of hearts or whatever your final revelation is. Again, I like that idea because it gives you that, oh, it was all a joke, this whole procedure, and then boom, you hit them between the eyes with a real punch finish.
Sometimes it's the old kind of 1, 2, 3, couple of laughs and then bang, shovel to the face. Something else that I've been playing with for smaller corporate events or a house party, I'd like to credit it, I don't know who came up with the idea, but that whole notion of taking a classified ad in the newspaper.
Right, I think probably Anneman.
Probably,
Anneman, it's in print by him. Well, let's talk about that, because I think you have a show coming up that you told me about that. You've actually...
it's very straightforward. You take a classified ad in the paper, and there are privacy concerns, so generally they don't like names and so forth, but you can put a company name in and say,
or initials.
Sure, Company X, thanks for picking the, thanks for picking the 2 of hearts. It's just a simple, inexpensive classified ad. And then you could bring several copies of the newspaper. This particular performance might only have 50 people, so it might only have 5 or 6 tables.
Sure.
What I'd like to do is perhaps get 5 or 6 copies of the newspaper and either put them on the table first or have them quickly distributed before the show starts.
Right.
I've done the newspaper before. What the prediction is it says the newspaper name, the page number, and the column or something.
Right.
Because usually the personals, automotive is 370, but the personals are 560. So you can put that information. They open it up and why does this say S17 590? Oh, by the way, that means page sports, page 17. Those are the classifieds. Can everybody open up their newspaper?
Right.
And as a nice touch, I just like to prep each newspaper with a red magic marker of circle.
Awesome.
So it's a little easier to see.
Wow, what a great way to do it. And again, because of the freeness of the deck, there's no concern.
Absolutely. And again, this gets back to that whole notion of it's not self-working, but it gives you that confidence. And this is a real, and I don't even think we've scratched the surface yet.
No.
People will come up with presentations.
Well, I think that's why I didn't want to include a strict performance piece as part of the DVD because of the simple fact that I really want, it's my desire that people come up with their own stuff. Absolutely. I think, the bare bones are there, the routine is there, the effect and the procedure is there. Make it your own, and that's why we've included the scripts so people can actually go through it, see where we're coming from, see the frames that we put on the effect that they can. And by all means, obviously, we're including the script, so it's fair game to use. But again, you can take it from any angle. It's not specific to comedy. It's not specific to mentalism. It's not specific, but it can be all of these things.
Absolutely. One other thing that when I was in the early stages doing some brainstorming about the methodology was potentially tying in the old stalwart, the magician's insurance policy.
Right. Okay.
Just because, even, at the local shop, you can get one of the ones printed up.
Yeah.
And, they unfold, they're very large, very bright, very colorful, and all of a sudden now you could, have even additional comedy of not being able to find the card or something and using the insurance policy. As a revelation, and again, just from a framing perspective, a very big card for a revelation.
Sure.
And you know what? If we want to just talk about revelation, I certainly don't think that people are bound to having a jumbo card.
No.
I think you could do something like putting the name of the card on a T-shirt.
Sure.
The sky's the limit. It's this is what you just have is the propulsion system to get you there. You can do whatever you want at the end. But,
totally. Well, thanks, Anthony. You're awesome.
Well, listen, thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And again, have fun with Smartass. Anthony has.